And we're going to walk through, like I said, the monthly profit plan and the quarterly marketing calendar creation. The reason why we do this quarterly is because when it comes to marketing, studies have shown that between 6 weeks and 90 days is where the sweet spot usually is for a marketing campaign. So if I decide to launch an Instagram page and I do it for 2 weeks and then I just turn it off because I go, oh, that didn't work, I probably just didn't do it long enough. So typically speaking, we want to already have validated, right? Don't go launching things when you're not in launch mode. But if we've already validated and we've already built the minimum viable product for an offer and we're going to launch that offer, we want to launch it for a minimum of 90 days. I should say minimum of 6 weeks up to maybe 90 days before we decide whether to continue it or not. Okay. So this is why we do quarterly marketing calendars, because I want you to try something for full 90 days before you decide to stop or to continue. So if we're here inside Plan Her Profits and you scroll all the way down, you will see we have these bonuses, right? And one of our bonuses is the profit planning checklist. And inside that profit planning checklist, you will see the quarterly profit plan. Now, the quarterly profit plan is, like I said, how we create a marketing checklist, right? A marketing plan for 90 days. And this is identical to your profit planner. So if you have a profit planner, everything you're going to find in this little section right here is included in the profit planner. You don't need to have both, but this is just in case you want to download it. So this is the regular old quarterly one. This is the specific one for holidays, right? So I update this one every year. There's also some additional resources, but this is what we're going to be walking through today, okay? Now, because it's also the end of a month, we should be doing our monthly profit plan. And our monthly profit plan is when we look at our budget, when we look at our statistics, when we review our goals and make sure we're setting goals for that month, etc. So we're going to walk through this first because we need the information that this checklist will give us to inform us before we can start creating our quarterly marketing plan. Okay. So I'm going to walk through it step by step, and I want you guys to use the chat. And if I don't get a lot of engagement in the chat, I'm going to pause until I do. You guys know me. I don't want this to be a one-way flow, okay? So the first thing we're going to do on our monthly profit plan is we're going to add up our business numbers for the month and enter them into the dashboard. And then there's the link to the lesson if you're new and you don't know how to use a dashboard. But when I say dashboard, this is what I mean. My favorite one is usemystats.com, and it allows me to see all of my numbers, right? So for my business, I'm an online business. I have a completely different numbers than some of you might be tracking, but definitely everybody should be tracking their income, right? Everybody should probably be tracking how many clients they have if that's relevant to your business. You can see there's a lot of different numbers I track. A lot of my income used to come from Facebook. As you can see, Facebook has been killing its organic engagement intentionally. So no matter what I try, my Facebook reach and my Facebook engagement have been going down for many, many months. And so I started having to add other marketing strategies, right? I still get about 75% of my income still comes from Facebook. It's just I'm having to work harder and harder to get it, right? And so I started adding Pinterest, which has started to really take off, and TikTok. So those are other platforms I'm using. And as you can see, every channel I'm using to produce income, I am statusizing, I am tracking. So if you're trying to figure out why your income's going down, but you don't have graphs for the things that cause income in your business, you're going to make a lot of silly mistakes, right? So that's our very first step every month is we want to update our numbers and visually identify our big power moves, right? So looking at your business, looking at your numbers, use them as a crystal ball, go woo, right? What is my big power move this month? For me, a couple months ago, that big power move was I'm seeing the writing on the wall. I need to get off Facebook. I can't get off Facebook yet. I still, despite all the work I'm doing on Pinterest and all the work I'm doing on TikTok, I still am making 75 to 80% of my income on Facebook. It's just getting harder and harder and harder, right? So I'm seeing the writing on the wall. And so my big power move was get off Facebook, start generating income on another platform too, right? So, what is your big power move? And we don't want to move on until we've identified what is the big power move for my business this coming month. Okay, good. So, I want to use the chat. So, give me a 1 in the chat if you have numbers in a dashboard for your business. And I want you to put a 0 in the chat if you don't have any numbers you're tracking yet. Zeros if you don't have any numbers you're tracking yet. Ones if you have at least a couple numbers in a dashboard somewhere. Good, good. So far, I'm only seeing zeros from people who just started the program like a couple weeks ago. So I forgive you. Okay. But even in validate stage, right? Jolene, I think, is a great example of this. Jolene did a really good job, even in the validate stage, of tracking like how many people she was contacting, how many people she was asking questions of, right? Like there is no stage of business you cannot be tracking numbers. So if you're still working on figuring out your offer, that means you're in validate stage. All right. So how many potential dreamy clients did you talk to this week, asking them questions that would then lead to you developing a great offer, right? If you're more in the scale stage like I am, there's obviously a lot more numbers you're going to be tracking than if you're at the beginning of your business. Okay. I see we have Yunori on here today too. So I will say, like, for example, Yunori, how many posts you've made, how much engagement you're getting from those posts, and then how many proposed appointments you've tried to set, and then how many said yes, right? These are all numbers we could be tracking. It would help us identify exactly what's going on in the business and what's the next big power move. Okay. Now, for those advanced people, I don't think we have anybody on the live call today who is running paid ads, but we do have some people who I know will watch the replay who are running paid ads. So if you're watching the replay, or if you are running paid ads and I just don't know it, you will want to download the digital ads tracking grid, because it has specific numbers that I want you to watch if you're running paid ads. Things like cost per click, impressions, click-through rate. And so that is just a really great resource. So we would definitely once a month want to look at all of our paid ads and make sure that we are hitting the metrics that we want to be hitting with those ads. Okay. All right. So by the time I've done step 2, I should have a general idea of what my big power move is for the next month. 1, 2, or 3 is usually the number of big power moves I want to focus on. If you have a bigger business with a big team, you can have a lot more than 3 power moves. But if you're a solopreneur, usually focusing your priority on 1, 2, or 3 things you're going to focus on that month is probably the max that you want to do, right? Now, before we dive in and just like start running, we want to make sure we're not throwing the baby out with the bathwater. Okay, so step 3 is do not throw the baby out with the bathwater. Okay, so in other words, review your successful actions. For me, oftentimes I like to look at my orders, look at all those names, and ask myself, where did those come from? That's called income planning, right? Where I track my income sources. The last 5 or 10 sales I got, what platform did they come from? What was their first contact point with me? When I go into my software, I can actually view what the very first time that person ever got into my world was. Now, if it came from Facebook, there might have been some Facebook things that happened that my software doesn't track. But in terms of just like, how did someone first get on my email list? I can see the very first page of my website, the very first, right? Freebie opt-in that got them into my world. So that's what I spend a little bit of time doing, is reviewing my successful actions. What funnels are working? Which ones are not? Which ones did I drive a bunch of traffic to, but they didn't really work, even if they've worked in the past, right? And try to really identify what's working. So I'm not chasing new ideas and forgetting to continue to implement the successful ones. Okay. So let's use the chat again. I'm going to pause here for a second. I want you to list at least one successful action you think you took last month. In September, what's one successful thing you did? Maybe you joined Plan Her Profits. Maybe you traveled, right? Maybe you used social media. Bobby says, signed up with you. Thank you. I appreciate that. Um, what is at least one successful action from last month that moved you a little bit further towards your goal? Three payment options instead of two. Good. Created the freebie, broke the ice, started this course. Good. Good. Got a couple more people. Shannon is driving. Michelle, I'd be curious to hear your successful action. Yunori, what's yours? Get our successful action. So again, identifying what that is so that we continue to put it on there. And maybe a big power move sometimes is not changing anything. That can be one of the hardest things to do when you've been in this constant state of trying to launch, trying to launch, trying to launch. And then you hit launch and it works. And you'll have this urge to continue to change things, to try new things. No, right? Pause, take a deep breath, and decide that your big power move this month is to not change anything, right? Do exactly what we did because it worked. That can be really, really powerful. Okay. All right. Now, our next step is, remember in the past, in the profit parties and in the challenge, depending on how you got in here, I talked about the brush fire two-step. Who remembers this? The two-step is a dance move that goes kind of in a circle. Okay. So the brush fire two-step is what an entrepreneur does when she sets a goal for the year. And then she gets stuck putting out brush fires, putting out brush fires, putting out brush fires. And she arrives at the end of the year in exactly the same place she was at in the beginning, which is super frustrating, right? So this is why on the monthly profit plan, it's very important for us to review. Okay, I think my big power move is this, right? In steps 1 and 2, we set a hypothesis, a theory of what we think our big power move is this month. But then we want to check in on our future self. Okay. Go talk to Andy 3 years from now. Go talk to the Jolene of 3 years from now. Go talk to the Shannon of 3 years from now and ask, what should I have done in October that would have resulted in my goals being achieved? Okay, so that's going to put at least one big power move this month that's going to move the needle on the future, right? And so, for example, last month I was like hustling, 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 trying to help my husband launch his business because he had decided he wanted to launch this restoration business in June and it's gotten off the ground, but it hasn't hit breakthrough yet, right? So he's like really been working on this. And I was like working really hard on that. And I looked at October for my business and I went, what is something I really need to do? And I went, okay, wait, I'm going to check in on future Sarah. What does my business need from me the most to take me to where I want to be 5 years from now? And you know what? One of the answers is I need to get back in the gym. Okay. Like it was slowing down. It was taking some me time. It was actually like focusing on things that will make me the expert I want to be 5 years from now, who is someone who takes good care of herself spiritually, physically, mentally, emotionally, right? There needed to be some self-care. Yeah, Bobby's like, yeah, amen, right? Amen, Reverend. Let's get some beatniks, right? But that's the thing, is sometimes you have to remember to check in with your future self and be like, wait a minute. The most survival decisions are usually not the decisions that we make based off of the now. They're the decisions we make that are based off of 5 years from now, 10 years from now. What is the impact going to be in my life if I do this today? Okay. So that's our step 4. Step 5, we're going to skip this month because it's the end of a quarter. Okay. But every other month, when it's not the end of a quarter, we would do this step. Okay. Now, step 6, income planning. So remember, I talked about tracing our income sources, our past income sources. At step 6, we want to identify what is our income goal for October. And it should be connected to our annual goal for the rest of the year. So if your goal this year was to, right, for me, it was hit 250K this year, then how close am I and how much do I have to make in October to still be on track for that goal? Okay. And once I have that number in mind, and I'm curious, I would love to see in the chat if anybody feels like exposing how much income they want to make in October. What's your income goal? And then work backwards from that, right? All the time. We want to set the goal and work backwards, not forwards. So, working backwards for me is all right, if I need to hit 20K this month, how many more clients is that? How many big packages, how many smaller packages, how much of that is just going to come in anyway because I have passive income streams, right? Where is that income going to come from? And if we don't do that breakdown, we can sometimes not notice that there's a disconnect between what we identified as our big power moves and the activities it would take to hit our goal. And so we get super frustrated because we don't hit the income goal, but we never even put on the to-do list the things that would have hit it. Okay. So making sure that the big power moves we have for the future and the things that we had set for ourselves and the successful actions we're doing do mathematically add up to the income goal. And then breaking it down even further to like, if like Yonori had mentioned, scheduling appointments. Okay, how statistically speaking, how many appointments does it take you to get one sale? Right? And what's the average transaction fee for that sale? Maybe some of your sales are 50,000, some of your sales are $24. There's going to be an average in there somewhere, right? So how many appointments will it take? Okay, well, if you know that for every 3 appointments you set, you get a sale, and your average transaction fee on your sales is $1,000 and you're trying to hit 50,000 this month, well, then it's just math. It's literally just math. You have to have enough appointments to get enough sales to hit that number. Okay. But if we don't do the math, we'll never know what it's actually going to take. So that's our step 6, is to crunch the numbers and really do the math and actually write down in the planner. You'll see there's a section that's called income planning. Every month there's a little page in the planner for income planning. And you want to write down those numbers. I need 50 appointments and I want each one to average $1,000 or more. And right. And like do your breakdown so you can check in with yourself every week and see, am I doing the income producing activities that would cause me to hit my goal? Okay. And the last step, if you have them, is to sit down with your team and make sure everybody's aligned to that. Now, I say team, not employees, because team can be a very loose term. Okay. If you have a bunch of virtual assistants, great. Tell them your goal. It's not going to hurt them in any way to know what you're trying to achieve, and tell them exactly what you need from them in their specific role to make that happen. Okay. Run them on hitting those targets. If you have an actual team of employees, you should definitely make sure that your team knows what your goals are. When I get hired as Plan Her Profits Intensive, which is where I fly out to a business, or locally I drive to a business and I work with them and I work with their team to increase profits because they're having profitability problems. In the Plan Her Profits Intensive, one of the first things I always do is I do a confidential survey of all the employees. And one of the questions I ask is, what is management's goal? And it is very indicative of a company that cannot make its targets, that the employees don't even know what the target is. How can you operate as a team if you don't know where the goal is, right? Can you imagine if Mahomes was the only person who knew which direction you were supposed to run on the field? I'm talking about the Chiefs now, for anybody who's not Kansas City local. I'm talking about the 2-time, a Super Bowl winning team here in Kansas City. What? Chiefs Kingdom. And imagine if our quarterback was the only person who knew which direction you're supposed to run on the field. How many goals do you think they would make, right? So I don't care what your team is made up of. Maybe your team is you and your teenage daughter who runs your social media, right? Maybe your team is you and, 3 network marketing team members that you have. Like, I don't care. I don't care. They have to know your goals. They have to know your big power moves. They have to understand what tasks they have to accomplish to make the goal possible. And that's the only way you will ever accomplish a goal with a team. Okay. Good. So that is our monthly profit plan. We're going to pause here and open the floor for questions. Give me a thumbs up if you don't have a question. And if you're not on camera, give me a 3 in the chat if you do not have a question. If you do have a question, you can unmute and ask it. Got lots of thumbs ups. I think that's a heart or something. Okay, good. Cool. Let's do our quarterly. Oh, thank you, Bobby. Let's do our quarterly marketing calendar. Okay. I did email this out to all of you guys. Who got this email that had the quarterly marketing calendar in it? Did you guys see this email? If you haven't seen this email, go look at your emails and make sure that my email address is white labeled for you so that it lands in the right place in your inbox so you guys don't miss out on this, because I want you to have these things and be able to refer back to them. This is, of course, like I said, also in your planner. Unfortunately, we did have a delay and these planners did not get sent out on time. So you're going to have the holiday edition probably about a week or week and a half into October. And I apologize for that, but you can download it from the quarterly profit plan. Like I said, you can just download the digital version if you want to fill it out and go print it off right now if you want to and fill it out, or come back later and do that while watching the replay. Okay. So our very first step is we're going to look over the holiday calendar we did last year. Now, I don't do this every quarter, but definitely during the holiday season, because holiday quarter does not equal the previous quarter, right? Like what you do during October, November, December is probably not the same thing you did the last 3 months. You're going to run your business a little bit differently in most cases. There's also businesses that are very seasonal. Now, my coaching business is not seasonal, so I can compare quarter 1 to quarter 2 and just continue to repeat those successful actions, quarter 2 to quarter 3. But when I get to quarter 4, which is what we're about to walk into, right? When I look at the holiday season, I want to look at what I did last holiday season and what worked and what didn't. So how do I do that? Well, see this? This is a massive folder of all of my previous profit planners. Okay. So what I do is I just go look at my profit planner and I go, what was my big power move in October last year? And what was I focusing on? And what was working and what wasn't? And then I look at my profit plan for the end of October and I go, what worked, what didn't, right? And I look at my numbers. I go back and use my stats and look at my statistics for that month and I see what worked and what didn't, right? So this does not take very long. I would say at the most I spend maybe 2 hours doing all of the profit planning and the quarterly marketing plan for a quarter. But I do actually go look and see, first of all, did my plan get executed? That's always the first question with marketing, because we can assign a lot of false ideas to a plan that never even got executed. Like, oh, I'm going to start a podcast. Then you go, podcasting doesn't work. But in the 90 days of you trying that podcast, how many podcast episodes did you actually release? Right? If you were like, I'm going to release an episode every week, and then you only released 3 in 3 months, you can't tell me that podcasting doesn't work, right? So let's make sure that we are executing the plan. And if we didn't execute the plan, why didn't it get executed? Is there a bugged target in the plan? Was it just life came up and got in the way? Maybe we just need to reissue the plan, right? Set new dates on it and just try it again. Or is there a reason why this will not work? In which case, yes, we do need to switch to a different strategy, right? If it was executed, did it have the desired results? And this is where it can get a little bit nuanced, and you may want to jump on a one-on-one call if you're not sure, or bring it to our next Plan Her Profits call if you're not sure, because sometimes it didn't get the desired result, but it got pretty close. Okay, we're not going to throw that out. We're just going to tweak it. And knowing what to tweak, that's when you call in the expert. That's where you find someone who's done it successfully before and you ask them, how could I improve this? Okay. And again, if it did not get the desired results, why not? If we completely executed the plan and it completely flopped, something about our theory must have been wrong, right? Either we were lied to, we bought a course from someone who didn't really know what they were doing, right? Or we executed it incorrectly, something went wrong. So we have to identify that. So oftentimes I see people try to do things and then they just throw them away, going, that didn't work, without actually asking these important questions of themselves. Did I actually execute it the way it was taught to me? If not, why, right? Did it get the desired result? If it got most of the desired result, what was missing? Was there something I didn't execute correctly? Or is there something that needs to be tweaked, right? If we throw out the whole strategy without asking these questions, we might be starting our business over basically from scratch, right? Going all the way back to launch stage again and again and again, which would be silly, right? It's a lot of extra work for very little return when we do it that way. So I'm kind of nagging on this point because I see so many business owners that don't do this. Okay. Once a quarter, we want to do this. If it's the end of the year, we're going to look at the previous holiday season. But if it's third quarter, second quarter, first quarter, we're just going to look at the last 3 months and ask ourselves, what was my marketing strategy for the last 3 months? Did I execute on it? If I didn't, why? If I did I have the desired result? If not, why? If you just did that once a quarter, I tell you right now, you make a lot more money. Okay. Good. So the next thing we're going to do is similar to what we did with our profit plan. We want to do what I call the dream day ritual. And again, there's a whole worksheet for it in the planner, right? But essentially what we're going to do is we're going to ask ourselves, what do I want? Okay. What do I want my business to look like? Because sometimes in a fit of desperation, in an attempt to simply get sales in the door and be profitable, we build our business in the wrong direction, right? I meant a great example of this was earlier, Michelle said maybe I should just do online, and I just checked that for just a second. I said, well, wait a minute. Do you love offline? Because if you love offline, then let's just tweak it and make it work, right? But if you hate offline, you're like, I'm burnt out on this, I don't want to do it anymore, fine, we can create an online business instead, right? But if you love online, or if you love offline, right, that's why we want to do this dream day ritual. We want to make sure that we're building the business of our dreams, because no one else is guiding this boat except you. Right? You are in the driver's seat. So what country you end up in will be entirely up to you, right? But if we don't set the intention, we will never make it there. And we won't even notice when we've taken a wrong turn because we never set the intention. So that's the point of this exercise. What does a dreamy, ideal day look like for you in this business? Okay. Then we're going to set new goals. And we want to set new goals for all areas of life. So I'm going to show this to you really fast because this, I think, is very important. Mm-hmm. Let's get down to our goal setting page. There's our dream day ritual. All right, goal setting. Look at these different types of goals I have on here. Let's zoom in a little bit. Physical goals. What do you want the body that's called Bobby to look and feel like by the end of the year? Okay. Financial goals. Jolene, what do you want the bank account to look like by the end of the year? Right? Friendship goals. Shannon, what do you want the circle of friends that you lean on to look like by the end of the year? Right? Spiritual goals. For me, I invest quite a bit of money into spiritual counseling every year. It's really my thing, right? So, how do I want to feel spiritually by the end of the year? Right? Romantic goals. What do I want to accomplish in my relationship with Ben by the end of the year? Michelle, creative goals. What do you want to have created? Maybe it's a hobby, maybe it's an art piece, maybe it's dancing, maybe it's something very mechanical. Maybe you're fixing up an old car, right? Like, not going to judge. I don't know what it is or care, but what is your creative goal by the end of the year? We want to do this so that we're not trying to, right, like you don't work for corporate. Okay. Like you work for yourself. And so if, especially as a solopreneur, but even as a business owner who has multiple employees, we have to make sure that your business is supporting all of you, supporting holistic you. So setting these goals once a quarter allows you to craft the marketing campaign that's going to support all of those goals, not just the financial one. Now, in the beginning of your business, when you're really kind of shaky still at marketing skills, and you couldn't sell water to a dying man in a desert, okay, you might have to sacrifice some of these goals in the beginning to just get good enough at marketing and sales that you can hit a goal at all, right? You might have to sacrifice a few things in the beginning. But if you're still sacrificing over and over and over again, I start to wonder why we're even here. Does that make sense? And so honing in on what skill set, and again, I talked about this in the challenge, I talked about this in the profit parties and other places, right? Anytime an outcome feels out of my control, right? Like I really need to hit XYZ financially, and I'm struggling to hit that goal. I always ask myself, and this has been a very successful action for years in every business I've ever built, what skill set would put that outcome under my control? Okay. There is a skill you are missing if you're not hitting it. You're not good enough at marketing yet. You're not, like I said, you couldn't sell a water to a dying man in a desert, right? Like, where are the sales skills? Where are the marketing skills? Or maybe you have lots of refund requests coming up. Maybe you have a lot of people dropping out of your program. Okay, you need to go brush up on your coaching skills, or brush up on your somatic breathwork skills, or whatever it is you do, on your mural skills, right? Whatever it is you do, maybe there's a missing skill set there that's making it so that you're having to sacrifice all these goals just to hit that one. Okay. You guys tracking with me? Give me some thumbs up here. Yeah. Okay, good. So that's what we're going to do at step 3, is make sure we set goals for all the different areas of our life, right? And then review your one thing. And again, this is before we ever dive into how to create content. Our one thing is going to guide everything, because your one thing is what people know you for, and your content is supposed to be how you prove your one thing to your dreamy client. So if you're shaky about your one thing, your content's going to be shaky, and your content being shaky will confuse people. And in the words of the great Russell Brunson, a confused mind always says no. Okay. So you're going to hear a lot more no's if your content isn't on point. And if your content isn't on point, oftentimes it's going to be because you're shaky on your one thing. So what message are you trying to get across? Right. And again, it comes back to our intention. Intention is what causes the communication to get across. Okay. So what is your one thing? Let's use the chat. We got a couple people on here left still. So give me in the chat, what is your one thing right now? What is the one thing you want to be known for? If you're still trying to figure it out, then give me your ideas. I've got 5 ideas for one thing. Great. Drop them in the chat. Jillian's like, commercial real estate. Boom. That's easy, right? For me, it's money. I want to be known for anything, any money problem you have. I want to be known for the go-to girl who can help you solve it. Okay. Yeah, Bobby, connecting people back to nature. Good. Shannon, it's like motivational speaking, right? With a artistic paint component, right? Michelle, it's that somatic breath work, right? So our one thing is the thing we want to be known for. And then now we can go figure out over the next 90 days how we're going to create content that proves it. But if we haven't identified what we're even trying to say, we're probably going to struggle to say it, right? All right, so now we're going to review our marketing strategy. Let's get into our nitty gritty, right? We finished our strategy, our mindset stuff. We're going to get into the strategy. So what are the qualities that make someone a perfect fit for your message? In other words, your starving audience. And like I said, I just dropped a brand new video on this inside the Validate stage. So if you are still a little bit shaky on who your ideal dreamy client is, watch that video training. But some things that we're looking for with our starving audience: Hello. Some things we're looking for with our starving audience are they're hungry for it, right? Which means they're high on the awareness scale. They are not people who are not problem aware. It is someone who's very problem aware, maybe even solution aware. They already know that your solution exists. They're just trying to pick which brand they want to go with. That would be an ideal client, right? They're already starving and they already problem or solution aware. What else? What other demographics, psychographics, right? Highly coachable is one of mine. One of mine is I would go to coffee with that girl. Okay. If I would not go to coffee with you, you are not in this room. Just in case you ever wonder if I like you. Okay. You are not in this room if I would not go to coffee with you. It is literally something I ask myself in the back of my mind every time I welcome someone inside. Okay. And I have said no to people politely and sent them on their way with resources and freebies and fun stuff like that, but I have said no to quite a few people who are just like, we're not jiving, right? Bobby says thanks for the coffee. Good. So step 2, once we've identified the qualities of who we're going to target in the next 90 days, right? Review your validation statements. I go back to that same spreadsheet, right? The same questionnaire that I used when I launched my program. I go back to those same questions and I look through them for what are some questions I could ask around that? What are some what are some content I could create around that? And review them so I know what the thoughts, feelings, and desires of my audience are. And sometimes the world has shifted and I revalidate. Okay. I'll give you an example. During COVID, what people needed and wanted from a dentist really changed during COVID, right? Like they went from being like, yes, stick your unwashed hand in my mouth. Not really, right? But like, yes, stick your hand in my mouth to like, you better be wearing 20 layers of PPE before you even come close to me, right? What people's feelings and desires and thoughts of your industry might change. And so it can be a good idea every quarter to go look at your validation statements and ask yourself, do people still think that way? Am I encountering people who don't feel that way? Maybe I need to go revalidate. Okay. And ask a few more people. That doesn't mean you throw the whole baby out with the bathwater and build a brand new program, but it does mean that you might need to tweak some of the messaging of your content this quarter to match what your ideal clients want. Now, that's in a normal quarter. Okay. We're talking about the holiday season, and I can guarantee you your audience needs something different from you during the holidays than they do the rest of the year. Why? Because their attention is over here. How do you get the attention of someone whose attention is over here? Well, there's 2 ways you can do it. You can talk about the thing that their attention's on, right? Last year during October, I ran a challenge called Witches of Wall Street. Right? And so it was like very witchy and fun. And I wore a witch's hat the whole time and like made it really Halloween-ish while talking about investment strategies, right? So like that's option 1. You can figure out what their attention's on. You can talk about that thing so you can get their attention back on you, right? Or you can just speak louder, right? When your kid's playing video games, you don't come up, if you're trying to get them to do chores, you don't walk up and go, oh, hey, little Johnny, how's it going with playing Halo? No, you go, Johnny, you're supposed to do the dishes, right? And you like get their attention by just being louder, right? But one of those 2 things have to occur over the holiday season. You either have to speak up more or you have to start talking about the thing that they're talking about and drag their attention back to you. So, how are we going to do that? We're going to have to do that by understanding their thoughts, feelings, and desires. Okay. So that's why we want to keep that spreadsheet and never get rid of it. Now, the last thing then is what are my content pillars? And again, sometimes this can have changed, right? Your one thing might have changed even this late down the road. People do decide that they want to be known for something unique or different. Or because your one thing changed, your content pillars changed, or you simply learned that there was a new need or a new offer in your market. So like Jolene, I learned, I don't know if this is true, but I learned that Google was going to be opening like a brand new like warehouse or something like that in Kansas City, and it's supposed to be like huge. And I've heard a lot of residential agents talking about how this is like the greatest opportunity since sliced bread because there's going to be all these people moving to Kansas City and they're all going to want homes, right? And so even though you don't do residential, Residential is your target audience, right? So knowing that that's where their attention is, maybe a content pillar becomes how, how to get into commercial because everybody else is going towards Google and we're going to have, be some of the few who can not be like chomping over the same leads, right? Something like that. Like maybe that becomes an additional content pillar because that's what your audience has attention on. Does that make sense? Yeah. Um, Good. So what are our content pillars? Now, if you haven't seen the content pillars training yet, you can just click that little link and go watch it. But just to make sure everybody who's new is not totally confused, content pillars are the 5 to 6 topics, big, like think of them as buckets, right? Buckets that you reach into for content. So my one thing is being known for money and profitability for women, right? So investments, content bucket, budgeting, content bucket, savings, content bucket, right? Like these are different content buckets that I can reach into to prove to my ideal client that I am my one thing. Does that make sense? So this is why I wanted you guys to drop your one thing because this will help me. Jolene, commercial real estate, again, like why commercial is way better than residential, right? Work-life balance of a commercial agent versus, right? Like these are content buckets you could create. You probably have even better ones than that, but that's what came to mind. Let's do Michelle, right? Okay, so Michelle's one thing is breath work, right? Somatic breath work. Well, great. So in that one thing, there are pillars that hold up her one thing. Her one thing's her ceiling. The pillars are what's holding up that one thing. And some of the pillars might be like, stress relief, um, um, deeper connection to yourself, body, mind, spirit, right? That kind of thing. Thank you. Michelle's being very helpful here. Thank you. Anxiety. Great. That's a content pillar. Limiting beliefs. Those are content pillars because when she dips into those pillars, she can pull out content that will prove her one thing to her dreaming client. Okay. So once a quarter, we want to just review our content pillars. And sometimes we will find that one content pillar is getting 90% of the sales, right? Like when I talk about limiting beliefs and overwhelm, it's crickets. But then I start talking about anxiety and boom, I make money. Ching, 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 right? Great. If that's the case, maybe I'm going to drop limiting beliefs and drop overwhelm as pillars and break anxiety into 3 or 4 different pillars, right? A relationship anxiety, body, mind, spirit around anxiety, right? Like is anxiety body or is it mind or is it spirit, right? Like I don't know. I'm just trying here. Help me out, you guys. All right. Like you take that pillar that is working, you break it into multiple pillars. You just talk more about that because that's where the money's coming from. That's this exercise right here. Okay. That's what we're doing once a quarter. And then now we can finally do the fun step, which is break down the quarter into its 12 weeks, right? Every quarter has between 12 to 13 weeks and one topic per week. Okay. Because what we're going to do is we're going to what's called ding in our message. If I say a new thing every single day on social media, not only am I going to get decision fatigue, I'm going to very quickly run out of ideas. But also my audience is like, well, is she known for anxiety or limiting beliefs or overwhelm or right? And they get confused. They feel like the freaking bouncy ball, right? Who here has ever, as a child, thrown a bouncy ball into a bathroom? Anyone? Yeah, Bobby's like, yep. It's like, right? And like, that's how your audience feels when you keep talking about new things every freaking day. So what we want to do is we want to take one message per week and ding in that message all week long. Okay. So let's break this down. So let's take an idea. Michelle, I'm going to use yours because you gave me your pillars. If anybody else wants to throw some pillars out there, I'll give you some examples for yours too. Okay. But what we're going to do is look at how we break this content down. So weekly. Okay, good. So we've got quite a few here. So let's take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Perfect. She's got 6 pillars, which means in a 90-day period, she only has to talk about each pillar twice. right? Because we got 12 weeks, 6 pillars. See how much easier that is? Give me 2 blog topics on anxiety, 2 blog topics on limiting beliefs. Now, it doesn't have to be a blog. It could be a live video training. It could be a podcast episode. I don't care. But it does need to be a long form piece of content, something long enough that you can really demonstrate your expertise in that long form piece of content. We call this hero content, right? We talk about this in our social media mastery section of Plan Her Profits, right? Creating our hero content, right? So if we look at Michelle's examples, so 2 topics on anxiety. So maybe one week it's 5 ways to reduce your anxiety at work. Great. Obviously, we're going to highlight somatic breath work as the number one best way, but we're also going to give some other tips, right? Some other ways that people can reduce anxiety in that core piece of content. Okay, good. So then she's got 6 pillars, so she breaks it down into 12 different topics, and then we put those on the calendar. So where's our calendar? Hold on, we lost our calendar. Where'd it go? There we go. We want to break it up a little bit so you don't have to put all of them in the same week. But where is it? Here we go. Here's October, right? So good. So maybe she releases a new hero piece of content every Monday. So anxiety, and then burnout, and then overwhelm, and then trauma. And she just figures out what's the topic going to be that week out of which pillar, right? And then November, great. Maybe we come back to anxiety again for anxiety number 2. Then we do limiting beliefs, overwhelm, and then trauma number 2, right? It's perfect for Thanksgiving around my family. Trauma would be a great topic. Okay, and then we do burnout week number 2, stress reduction, and limiting beliefs. And it looks like we have 13 in this quarter, so we could do anxiety again, right? So great. Now we've identified that week what the topic's going to be. Then we jump over to, if you want to batch the content. I don't batch this hard. This is a little too much batching for me. But what I do is once a week I batch, right? But if you wanted to, you could create content for the whole quarter. You could. So then we go, all right, so this coming week, let's go back to October, right? My content was, what did I say? 5 ways to reduce anxiety at work. Okay, great. If that's my topic for this week, then I go to my weekly content calendar and I go, okay, great. I'm going to make a value post about that, right? So what's 1 to 3 tips or a rundown of how to avoid that pain, how to avoid anxiety or achieve being anxiety free, right? And then what's a transformation that I have gotten for someone at some point on that subject, and share the story of that, right? Or a milestone if you yourself have accomplished a milestone. So, hey, I used to have crippling anxiety, but I'm now on day 65 without feeling anxious, right? Great. Make a milestone post out of that. Belief shifting. Good. Wednesday, we're going to make a belief shifting post. What's a false belief or limiting belief your audience has around anxiety? Well, the only way to get rid of anxiety is to take psychotropic medication. No, actually, you can also do somatic breath work, right? Like, good. So that would be shifting that limiting belief that people have, right? Thursday, we make another value post. Friday, we make our little 2-step. So this is where we're going to get salesy, being a little bit more direct with this post. We're talking to people who are low-hanging fruit, who have been watching our content all week long and have been thinking about reaching out to you. And now we're going to give them an opportunity to do so by saying something like, are you struggling with anxiety on a daily basis at work? Comment below. I have a gift for you, right? That would be an example of a 2-step post. Saturday, if you're doing 7 days a week like I am, you would share a success story, right? Help me cheer for my client, Bobby, who tried my somatic breathwork exercise out in the forest and, I don't know, met her love of her life right afterwards. I don't know, whatever, right? Okay, great. And then on Sunday, we make a lifestyle post. A lifestyle proves that you are as good as you say you are by showing how your life, how you live your best life because of your thing, right? So, um, something that happened that week, a picture of something you did that week that reduced your own anxiety, or something you did that week because you no longer have anxiety. That would be even more powerful, right? So, lifestyle posts are just proving that you walk the proven path of success. Okay. But you see how now we don't have to pick a new topic every single day. We're sticking to the same topic all week long and we're just attacking it from different angles. And the type of posts we're making are defeating their objections before they even speak them, especially that belief shifting post, right? We're defeating an objection before they even think of it. But even with our value posts or our transformation posts, right? Like we're showing social proof, we're taking the time for a whole solid week to talk about this thing and the offer we have around it in a way that doesn't feel super salesy and pushy. Okay. So that's just one example. You don't have to be making Facebook posts, right? Maybe for you, you just run 7 days of paid ads. That's fine. Right? Maybe for you, you're making Pinterest pins instead, like whatever your thing is, but you pick at minimum one topic per week. You can even talk about the same topic all month long. That's totally fine too, right? But my point here is to plan it out. And if you want to, use Chat GPT to make it really easy and smooth. Okay. Now, the last thing I will say is I personally like to have flash sales and big launches, so to speak. At least once a month, I do a flash sale, and at least once a quarter, I do like a bigger launch. So I'm going to talk in a minute about how to do that, but let's take some questions. Bobby, one topic per week, and then all your posts that week are about that one topic. Does that make sense? So the posts are just a breakdown of that one topic. Okay, good. You can do one topic for 2 weeks, one topic for 4 weeks, one topic for an entire quarter. Don't do one topic per day. Because, like I said, that's where we get the bouncy ball effect, where the audience is like, whoa, what do you, I don't get it. What are you talking about? Right? You keep changing what you're talking about. Okay. Good. Okay. So let's talk about flash sales and launches. So this is our typical, I'm not launching anything. I'm just doing my normal lead generation. That's what this plan that I just described was, right? This content calendar is for when we're in our growth stage, where we're just trying to add more audience, get more subscribers, generate more leads so that we can do our profit hour every day and convert those leads into sales on a regular recurring basis, right? Now, what about when we're ready to like get a real cash injection? There's a couple of cash injection opportunities, especially during the holidays. There's Black Friday, right? Normal cash injection. Also, any holiday is an excuse to run some kind of discount or sale or flash sale or offer, right? So I like to do one flash sale per week. And what I do when I'm having a flash sale is I do not promote it ahead of time. I just announce it instead of my hero content. So, for example, on the 21st, instead of running a blog that week and promoting it all week long with my different types of posts, I announce the flash sale and I go, hey, from now until Friday, you can X, Y, Z, whatever that looks like for you. So last week, I did a flash sale to get beta members into Course Creation Framework, right? And I just said, hey, look, it will never be this price again. I can't guarantee you're going to get anything out of it except a course, right? Bobby's like, woo! Yeah, Bobby took advantage of that price, and I'm very glad she did. It's probably going to be like 10 times as much for everybody else. That was good. So that all I'm gonna do is make salesy type posts all week long. And since I have a large email list, I'm also going to email every single day of that week. Whereas normally, you guys have probably noticed, I only send 1 to 2 emails a week, usually. I try not to blow up my audience with email. So in a flash sale, I'm doing hardcore sales type posts all week long. Now, when I say hardcore sales type posts, I don't mean buy from me, 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 buy from me. Because if you do that, your audience will burn out very quickly because not everybody in your audience needs or wants that thing. Okay. What I do when I'm running a flash sale is an adaptation of my normal content, because the fact that it looks organic and it looks just like the content I usually create gets more engagement, right? This will only work if you're doing profit hour. If you're not doing outbound on inbound and using the profit hour method, this will not work for you. Okay. But on Monday, I make my value post, but of course, I make my value post around the topic of my sale, right? Instead of a blog, I just make the value post like 1 to 3 tips for how to get the most out of my offer, right? And then I make sure it has a call to action. Day 2, transformation post. So I share testimonials, success stories. You guys remember right before the challenge, well, those who joined after the challenge, you won't remember this, but like Jolene, I reached out to you, asked for a testimonial for the challenge, right? So the week ahead of a sale or a challenge or some other big launch, I always ask my existing audience, hey guys, who's willing to let me share their story or give me a testimonial I can use for that launch, right? So I make a post about the stark transformation, the stark contrast between where my client started and where they are today, right? So, and then I include a call to action. So that's the main thing that's different about my content during a flash sale or during a launch is every post has a call to action, whereas normally my posts don't always have a call to action to buy something, right? So at the bottom, I will have a click, say the word blah below, or DM me if you're interested for more details, or or to get the link or whatever. So I have some kind of call to action to the flash sale on that post. Then I make a belief shifting post, and usually I, instead of a false or limiting belief that's just kind of random, I ask myself, what is the most common objection people have to my offer? And I treat that like the false or limiting belief for the flash sale, and I make sure that I tackle that, right? And again, I make sure that there's a call to action on that post. Then on Thursday, again, value post. And then my 2-step is not to a freebie, it's to my direct offer, right? So, hey, I have usually, because again, Friday is the last day of the flash sale. So I'll tell people, hey, I have 3 spots left inside this beta. If you want to create a course by the end of the year, comment course below before the price goes up by 10 times. Right? Good. And then again, so like my whole content, I'm still keeping it very similar. Sometimes during a flash sale, I will post more than once a day. I'm definitely using my Facebook stories and my Instagram stories and reels a lot more during a flash sale, which I don't have time today, I don't think, to show you exactly how I do that, but I will make make a video on that if you guys want. But that's the only thing I'm doing differently, is I'm just making sure that the entire week I'm talking about nothing but that offer with the normal type of content I already create. So people are used to seeing it. It's not like sticker shock, right? They don't go, oh, that's a salesy post, I'm going to avoid it, right? Now, I was going to make a point. I forget what it was. Oh, yeah. During your flash sale, you want to make sure that you're doing your outbound on inbound. So who remembers what outbound on inbound is? Inbound is likes, comments, shares on social media. That's what inbound is, right? They're tiny reaches. Doesn't mean the person is a good fit. Doesn't mean that they want it. Doesn't mean that they meant to buy it. But it does mean that something about that post connected with them. So we want to do outbound on that message, especially during a flash sale. I would do outbound to every single person who liked. And it can be depending on the person, right? We have to identify, is this person cold, warm, or hot? If it's your mom, the outbound to mom is going to be, hey, mom, thanks so much for supporting my flash sale. I really appreciate it. We're not going to try to sell mom, right? Or like your second cousin once removed who just happened to like the picture, right? Like, no, the outbound is going to be very different depending on who it is. But for someone who has liked every post for the last couple of days, maybe made a comment a couple of days ago, that person I would probably be a little bit more direct, right? You guys remember my out of the blue script? Hey, Jolene, this is kind of out of the blue, but I noticed that you liked a couple of my posts this week, and I am running a flash sale. I'm just curious. It might not be for you, but if I send you the link, would you take a look at it and just tell me if you think you know anyone who might be interested? That's the out of the blue message. It's very direct. I would never send the out of the blue message to a cold person, someone I never talked to before, right? But for someone like Jolene, who's a current client, or someone who is a past client, or someone who I've talked to multiple times and they've said that they're very interested at some point in working with me, but it's never been the right moment, out of the blue can get you a lot of sales. Okay. Anyway, I'm throwing out a bunch of tips now. I hope I'm not overwhelming you guys, but my point here is let's plan our profits. Let's not let our profits sneak up on us, or our lack of profits sneak up on us, right? Let's have a quarterly marketing calendar and then identify today, what day in October am I going to run a flash sale? Obviously November, I hope you're going to pick Black Friday. It would be silly to run one some other week. Either don't do one at all or do it on Black Friday, right? And then December, do I want to run a flash sale? If so, what day, right? What week is going to be my flash sale? And just identify what that week's going to be and what you're going to offer, okay? And put it on your calendar. Okay, we got a couple minutes left here. Let's open the floor for questions. How are you going to implement this in your business?
So on the flash sales, like, how would you structure that? Like, are you doing like discount, 1 month free? Like, does it depend on like where they're at? If everybody's like coming in at the end of the year, like I really want to get started, but I'm busy and whatever.
Right.
Okay.
So at your stage, I would not offer any discounts. Down the road, when you're very cash heavy, discounts can be a great way to get a cash injection. But right now, what I would recommend is adding something. Make it something that's digital, make it something like record an extra training. Maybe do a case study of a commercial property that you sold from start to finish, how that went, right? And like add bonuses that they won't get. And then hold yourself accountable to deleting that bonus afterwards. Be like, look, guys, I created this. If nobody buys it, I'm deleting it. Right? If people do buy it, I'm deleting it for everybody else. No, I will never offer this again. This is your only chance. So you have to create real scarcity when you're not doing a discount. It cannot be fake scarcity. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
That's so great. Okay, so I was automatically thinking of like taking away instead of adding.
right. Yeah, so we want to add value. Now, one thing I
Yeah.
will say, Jolene, that you could do is you could look at your calendar and say, like, I only have 3 spots where I could hold your hand, and right, like you, because I know you guys have your validation showed that a lot of your guys want hand holding of some kind.
Yeah.
So you could think of like a hand holding that you want to offer that people have said they want, but you can only fit 3. And then just look at what's my money goal for that month and divide that money goal by 3 and go, okay, I only have 3 spots. They're all $1,500 or whatever, right? Like whatever's that number that you have to hit. And you could make your whole goal that first week by just selling
Okay.
those 3 spots. Does that make sense? So
Yeah.
value add is always better because it adds revenue and it adds value. That means people get better results, which means we get better testimonials, which means it's easier to sell next time, right?
Mhm.
Always better than a discount.
Okay.
Good question. Okay, anybody else?
Thank you.
Bobby, how are you going to apply this? I know if I were you, I would pick a date in October where you want to launch your validation, right? Like
Okay.
this is the week I'm going to jump on a call with 30 people, right? That would be a great, it's not a flash sale because it's free, right? But it's like a flash, all your content's going to be around that week. All your content's going to be about jumping on a call with you for a free consultation, right? And then maybe November might be kind of quick. Maybe at the end of December, you go, or it could be November, right? Depending on how fast you want to move. You could be like, okay, November for Black Friday, I'm going to launch my beta, right? And that could be your plan. And then December, you're going to launch your first actual offer. Anyway, that's moving really fast. It depends on how much work you want to do, but that's what I would do with yours if I were you. Okay. Make that your plan. Michelle, how about you? How can you apply this to your business?
Um, I'm feeling a little overwhelmed. I need somatic breath work.
Good.
um, no, I did some yesterday. It was great. Yeah, the way that I can apply it is, I I tend to get overwhelmed with this topic in general. I think I have some limiting beliefs around it. But basically, what I will do is I will take the hero content and put it in a calendar and plug it in so that it could just really be broken down and it's just a lot easier to digest.
Yeah,
So I
Michelle,
think that'll be really helpful.
one tip I want to give you, Michelle, because I've run offline events while also trying to run an online business, and it is very dispersing, right? It feels like your attention's going a million directions. And
Mhm.
one successful action I've had is make my hero, if like I plug my flash sales in first, and then I plug my offline events into my calendar first, and then I make my hero content for that week connected to the offline event I'm trying to fill, so that I can talk about my expertise and talk about the event at the same time. And I'm not trying to do three things at once. Does that make sense?
Hold on, I'm trying to wrap my head around what you said. So the hero content is basically it hits on the event and it hits on the hero content too. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. So, for example, let's say on the 14th of December, you have an offline somatic breathwork workshop,
Okay.
and it's the topic for it is specifically trauma related. That week, I would make my hero content that I release on Monday, I would make it trauma related, so
Mm,
that I can talk about make a value post,
mm,
make a transformational post, make a belief shifting post, make a value post, make a two-step post all week long on the topic of trauma. And anytime someone expresses interest, I can say, actually, I have an event happening on Saturday. Would you like the link? So it's all very connected instead of feeling like you're going two different directions at the same
I
time.
love that. Okay, I
Yeah.
think
So
that'll
maybe
help a
try
lot.
that and see how it works.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. Yeah,
Yeah.
this has
One
been
other
very
thing for
helpful.
everybody.
Yeah.
Good. I'm
I
so glad.
actually did have another question.
Yes, go ahead.
With the flash sales, are you are you planning that first and you're just kind of reverse engineering and you're like, this is the sale I'm gonna offer for this month, and you're like, okay, these are the topics I need to hit because this is the flash sale?
Yes, that's right. I always work it backwards, because if
Okay.
I don't, then I end up talking about something that was totally disrelated to my flash sale, and it confuses my audience and it lowers my sales. Yeah. Okay. One other tip I will make too for everybody actually is, I release my hero content on Monday. You do not have to release your hero content on Monday. Your week, your content week can be Thursday to Wednesday. It can be Friday to Monday, or Friday to Thursday, whatever, right? Like, you can start your week any day of the week. It does not matter. I do mine on Monday. That doesn't work for everybody. I have multiple clients who start their content week on a different day. Okay. So don't feel bound by what day of the week it has to start. Good. Andy, I know you're just getting started here, so I'm going to encourage you to do the same thing I told Bobby, if that makes sense to you, which is put on your marketing calendar what day you're going to start validating and start creating content around your validation of your idea.
Working on that, working on mindset, working on focusing, working on all of that. Yeah. So
Yeah.
thank you.
Don't overwhelm yourself. If you feel like this is an advanced step that you're not ready for, table it. This recording is going to go out to you. You can watch it again next year. Okay? So don't don't stress about it, because especially during the holiday seasons, we want to stay in a state of flow and really feeling like you're getting to enjoy them and not overburdening yourself. Okay? So
Thank you.
give yourself grace. Yeah, Bobby, you had a question?
Yes. So I'm also kind of been reminded this week of like how to kind of keep things simple and not like I was recording videos one day, and then my daughter came home from school, was like, oh, I have homework, I got to record a video and like edit it and do all kinds of stuff. She had it knocked out like that, and I'm like doing sixth grade homework over here all day, right? And
Yeah.
it's harder than it needs to be, but I've never done this before. Like, I don't have my Facebook page or like followers, so it's definitely something that I do. But if we're starting kind of from scratch, is there any recommendations you have on building it out over time, or just like do it and it'll build?
Yeah, that's such a great question. So the first thing I will say is I am not of the mindset that every business has to use social media to survive, right? Like, look at your
Mhm.
business. You're making plenty of money. You don't even have social media, right? I work with a lot
Yeah.
of seven-figure businesses that don't even use social media. They've used offline forever. They've got, referral based. They have a massive list of affiliates, right? Like, there are so many other ways to market. What I teach applies to all of them, which is why the social media module is a bonus. It's not part of the Plan Her Profits method. I used it as an example of how you can make your hero content and then have posts be how you prove that, right? But for years, I was an offline coach. I mean, I didn't even go on social media, and I had clients, like I said, making $35 to $37,000 a year with one client. And I would fly out to their company and like help them, right? And I never even went on social media. And it was all like word of mouth, right? So when I was offline, my hero content was still blogging, it was still my website, but people were finding me through SEO. And so I would be on Google, like making sure I got enough testimonials and doing things to like boost my SEO. I was not creating 7 days of content. So I want to just make sure that we dispel any false beliefs, not with you necessarily, Jolene, because you're obviously doing it, but with anybody else that like you have to have social media. Now, I do think social media is wonderful. And I do think that if you're going to start, you should pick one platform, the one that you're most familiar with or already have the largest audience on, even if it's just friends and family. And you should start with value-driven content, right? So just even if you're not going to do once a day, that's totally fine. Pick once a week, 3 times a week. And if you're going to only do 3 times a week or once a week, start with value posts and belief shifting posts. And as you grow, you start adding in transformation, two-step, outbound on inbound, these other things that will monetize that platform. But at the beginning, you're just going to focus on brand awareness. Value posts and belief shifting posts will build know, like, trust, and it'll build goodwill. And I want you to think of goodwill as a bank account. You're just growing that bank account. And then down the road, when you start making salesy posts, you'll start to deplete your goodwill. Every sales post depletes your goodwill. So if you only make sales posts, you never make value posts, you will not get any sales because your goodwill is at zero. Does that make sense? So you want to build, especially when you're starting from scratch, majority of the content should be value driven, no call to action, just like, end the post with hope that helps, like just adding value to people's lives, and targeting only your rich niche. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
Cool. Do you know what platform
Okay.
you want to start with?
So I, it's a good question. So, for us, when we have a lot of our clients that are buying properties are on Instagram. So I have Samantha just like run Instagram because that's not my jam. But
Yeah.
I think Facebook for real estate agents, probably Facebook is where I need to be.
I think you're probably right. There are some really
Yeah.
great Facebook groups already in the Kansas City area. I would
Mhm.
start there because those people are more likely to already know you, right? And it'll be easy to
Mhm.
build know, like, trust. And then if you want to go nationwide, you can too, right? But I
Mhm.
would start there and and what I would do is I would create a spreadsheet, just like we have inside Plan Her Profits in the social media space, create a spreadsheet that lists all the Facebook groups, right? And I'm posting in 3 Facebook groups per day. It's all recycled content. I don't create new posts. I just go find something I posted 3 weeks ago and I repost it in the Facebook group, right? So it's all recycled. But in the beginning, you won't have that, right? So pace yourself. Decide how many Facebook groups you're going to post in per day, right? And keep a spreadsheet. So you're not only posting in these 4 and always neglecting the rest, right? So just keep it very organized for yourself. You can see an example, like I said, in the social media bonus. There is a section in there for the appointment setter, and the appointment setter job description has a link to my spreadsheet where I keep my Facebook groups. Okay. So that's
Mhm.
what I would focus on in the beginning, is like posting 1, maybe 2 or 3 times a week on your profile, and then recycling that content into Facebook groups that are targeted at your existing or your dreamy rich niche client. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so I have a business page. Should I like join those groups through that business page and comment under that business so it feeds back in, or just me personally?
It has to be you personally for a couple of reasons.
Okay.
One, a lot of Facebook groups don't allow business pages to join. So you're kind of crippling yourself if you focus on your business page. And also, Facebook has really stopped showing business page posts organically. It's a pay to play at this point. You have to run ads to get good engagement on that. So that's why I say, like, just use your personal profile. And there's a couple of different ways we can do that, Jillian. On our next one-on-one, let's talk about exactly what your strategy is going to be. Is that okay with you? Because we're out of time today.